Welcome to Road to 100 Million, where we are on a mission to impact over 100 million lives to achieve their dreams. Welcome to this episode of Road to 100 Million, where we are on a mission to impact over 100 million lives to achieve their dreams. Today, we have a special guest, somebody that I look up to and I literally want to model after. This is a guy named David Carpenter. For those of you that don't know, David is actually in the financial services industry right now. He got into it about 4 years ago, or when he was age 26, right? So he became a millionaire in 2020 after 4 years in the industry, which is absolutely amazing, right? 4 years, but number one internally category winner for RGA, MGA in 2020, two-time winner of Office of the Year, became one of the youngest to ever qualify as a board of director, top-ranked sales manager in the world in his industry, $1.8 trillion industry, by the way, and also bought his mom a house, paid for all her debt, and bought his dad his dream car. So with that mouthful said, I'm sure you guys are kind of intrigued by now. At least you should be. But yeah, without further ado, David, thank you for hopping on today.
Hey, thank you so much, Andrew, for having me on, man. I
Yeah,
was
of
very
course.
excited to meet you, and let's bring some value.
Yeah, 100%. That's why we're here, man. So that's where I wanted to start too, the value of one thing that really caught my eye with you is your leadership qualities and how you portray yourself as a leader. And I think that's something that's so overlooked in any industry today, right? Of, what does an actual leader look like, right? And for me, I know we have the mutual friend of David Meltzer, and he was the first person who ever really introduced me to true leadership and really kind of qualities and the standards he sets for yourself. So one, how did you get those qualities, and who mentored you to be able to understand the leadership? And as far as that goes, how do you stay so consistent, so persistent with being that leader, and not always having that certainty, but always standing up and trying to push your team to be better?
Thank you, Andrew. And David, that makes sense. David's one of the best in the world. So shout out to David Meltzer. And that's a great question. I don't think I always was a great leader. I had great intentions. I think I've always had a great heart. I was definitely not surrounded by the right people at one point, so I wasn't always a great leader. And just like every other leader there is, I struggled with leading from the front always. I was a great talker, but I wasn't always a great walker. So, especially being brand new into the industry, I was not the best at sales. I was actually very scared at sales. I was great at recruiting. And so I just leaned on my strength. So building a team, I built a very big team very quickly, and it crumbled just as quickly as I could build it.
Uh-huh.
And then from there, being humbled from going from multiple six figures down to almost zero, that is when I started to realize that it was the man in the mirror that needed to grow, and I needed to develop myself as a leader overall, which is leading from the front. And I think that's the number one characteristic of a leader, is having integrity, honoring your word, keeping your word, and doing what you say you're going to do, and showing the proper example, being vulnerable, getting uncomfortable, and putting yourself in the newest person's place and saying, hey, I'm not better than you. Let's do this together, rather than, hey, let me just talk about it. Let me be about it. So that's when I really kind of just became, I guess, a decent leader. I don't think I'm a great leader. I'm in learning. I'm growing every single day. And it's something that I strive to become more of, because I want to be the best version of myself for my people, for my family, for my future wife. So yeah, man, I started in the industry, like you said, at 22. And I think 24, I started to really kind of change my heart and really focus on, instead of what are these people doing for me, rather and to the focus of how can I serve and develop the other people around me, and how can I put myself in positions to help better them. So mindset shifted when I was really humbled through a huge falling out. So hopefully that answered your question a little bit there.
No, most definitely. And it leads right into my second question of, You know, one thing of just going from multiple six figures down to back down, it's like, all right, you finally got started. You finally started making, and then now you're like making some real money. And then it's like still another false start, you know, kick in the
Yeah,
face. Right.
for
And
sure.
that's just something like, I heard your story of when you were on Bradley's podcast of what it took to even, you know, get licensed and get started for you. And
Yeah.
so it's like you got kicked multiple times before you even got into the industry and then still continue to, you know, take blows while getting into the industry and finally getting some kind of success, right? How do you, for anyone listening, like how do you go over those adversities and stay super resilient of like, you know, no matter how many times you get knocked back down, you know, you get back up. Like, you know, for some people it's so hard. Like I know there's some people that are probably getting kicked in the face all last year because of COVID and everything. Like what would you tell them that's helped you kind of come over those adversities, especially, you know, and I want you to share a little bit about, you know, the adversities of what it took to even get your license. You want to share a little bit of that story. I think, you know, it's amazing. So if you want to share some of that.
Yeah, great questions, Andrew. Honestly,
Thank
they're
you.
really good. So I'll share the story leading up to it and then how I got out of it. But so starting out, getting my license, I was 21 years old, and I was serving tables. I lost a business, a network marketing business of 5 years, failed in that. Everyone was right. I was completely wrong, right? Oh, that was a great feeling. Lost a car. Like I said, I lost the girlfriend when the money left, right? And I was
Wow.
just really just on my face and broken and lost. And I decided to get into fitness. I did a bodybuilding show and I was committed to that. But during that time, I was actually approached by a gentleman that actually never even passed his exam, told me about this insurance, like the financial services. And at that point, I was like, well, as long as it's something different and I have an opportunity to grow, I'm willing to do whatever. I'm desperate at this point. Like,
Yeah.
I am not born to be a server. I respect servers. I was there. Oh my God, I'm so happy I'm out of it. So I took the opportunity. Now I struggled, like you said, I failed my insurance exam 4 times, which is the max amount of times you can take it in Arizona.
Dang.
So during this, and this is not cheap, like you got to pay every time you take the test
Yep.
while I'm serving tables. And during that time, I had to make a decision whether I was going to take it out of state or if I was going to give up. And it was a very low point in my life. And I decided that I was going to follow through and I set my exam. Now, 2 weeks before my test, this is what's crazy, Andrew, is I remember I was serving tables. It was a Saturday night and I get a call and I have 4 tables. And this is my night because I have to catch up on bills. Like I'm behind, like I'm struggling, credit cards maxed out. Like it is not a good time in my life. But I get a call, I have to leave everything, go to the hospital. I found out my brother's in the hospital, and the doctor pulls me in a dark room, tells me, hey, your brother's not going to make it. Your brother just died in an accident, and that was it. And again, I had my test 2 weeks out, and I was, again, just talk about the worst year of my entire life. This was in 2016. So in that moment, I had to make a decision whether, I was going to say, hey, like, screw it. That's it. Like life's too hard. Let me get into drugs. Let me get into alcohol. Let me go, fill this void with other things that are not going to be good for me.
Mhm.
Or I can use this as fuel and eventually be able to come on a podcast with you, Andrew, and say, hey, because I made the right decision to respond, I can impact people's lives from this. So I made that decision in 2016 that I was going to go dedicate that insurance exam to my brother's life and my first year in insurance to my brother's life. So I decided to go down there a week after his funeral. I go down there. I drive the night before I go and drive down there. Get this, I can't even pay rent. My rent's $450. My mom comes over. She knows I'm so broken. She's like, she offered money because she knew I would never ask. And I looked at my mom and I said, I'll never have to borrow money from you again. I took the money. I went down there. I had to stay with a buddy because I couldn't even afford to stay in my own hotel. So I went down there with a buddy. This guy ends up getting like broken into that night and robbed. And I had a gun pointed in my head the night before my exam. This is
Dang.
1 year.
Jesus
This is 1
Christ.
year, bro, literally. And I was like, no sleep, didn't sleep at all. I'm shaking. And I drive an hour away to take my life insurance exam, health insurance, and I pass it. And I was like, I've already been through hell. Like, it can't get much worse than this.
Yeah.
So,
Oh my goodness.
dude,
That's literally what I heard you say, didn't it? Go ahead.
so all commission based was like, wow, that's it. After I've been through all that, like, that's cake.
Dude.
Yeah, man, that's in my mindset, I guess, behind it was my why. So my mom's, like, foreign mom, she was struggled all throughout my high school career. Like, I just didn't even know how bad it was until later on when I, obviously became aware of it. And I made a goal that I was going to buy her house, put her in her dream house. And I had a goal that because she was in so much debt that I needed to repay her. And I had to be a great role model for my sister because my dad's been in prison since I was 16. And I was just like, I had to be the man, bro. Like, I had no good examples around me. Brothers died, like brother died. All my influencers, like my cousins and stuff, they're all in prison. So I was like, hey, this is exactly what I'm not going to do. And like, I
There you go.
decided to be the opposite and be the first one to make it in my family. So I just had a big why. And I was just like, it's not what happens to me, it's how I respond. And that was what I kept telling myself. And I really believe that, it was God's favor. And, because of that mindset and attitude that no matter what, I'm going to get it done. God helped me through those situations that were honestly insane. So hopefully that helped a little bit.
Yeah, no, 100%. And, I love that. And I want to touch on that too, as far as, like you said, it's not the way you react to it because you're taking those actions. So you're not reacting to it. You're not letting your kind of ego take a hold of you. And
Yeah.
that's something, I didn't really understand too much of my own ego until, I always thought it was just arrogant and, somebody's being an asshole. Right. So, but it's like, everything as far as stress, resentment, guilt, frustration, right. And everything along those lines of anger and that was something that my mentor, David Meltzer, right, like taught me. Who did you learn that yourself, or like did you learn that through your own mentors of like how to actually go through these adversities and move forward with the best foot forward?
That's a great question. I have a great mentor, and my mentor's name is Dustin Camp. He's one of the most successful guys in our industry. Just amazing guy, great heart. So I've learned it from him, yes. But I've just had no other way, bro. I think, I'm a big believer in my faith, and I know that I just believe that things are really just always happening for me and not just to me, and that it's a part of my story, my journey. Like, people think like hard times are there to like discourage them. For me, I know it's to refine me as a leader, as a person, and I need to go through these things so I can be relatable to other 22-year-olds, 23, 24, whatever, 30, I don't care, just people that have been through things, say like, hey, because I didn't lose faith in this, you can make it out of it too, because there's always a light at the end of the tunnel if you keep moving forward and keep working on yourself. You don't need to be amazing to start, but you need to go through this because you're going to be a whole different person at the end of it. And that person is who you need to be in order to make 1 million, 2 million, be financially free. So it's essential to struggle, and you only fail when you quit. So if you keep going, you actually never fail. It's just a part of the journey, and that journey is what people are scared of and not willing to do because it's uncomfortable. But that the journey is the most important part.
I love that. I absolutely love that because it's the difference between failure and failing. Failing, you're still learning, right? You're still taking those lessons and moving forward.
Yeah,
And that's something that Dave used to always teach me about too. There's no such thing as setbacks; it's just setups, right? You're either gonna make them your excuses or you're gonna make it your story, right? So, and
yeah,
that's totally something that you just decided and you made that decision. Like, this is the reason why I must be right, why I need to. And I feel like everything just tacking on now, like anything else going forward, it's just like, no, this is going to use as fuel to push you forward to keep going. Right.
yeah,
And that's absolutely amazing that you're able to, make that split decision. Like you said, it's either going to go down the wrong path or you're going to use it and go down the right path. And,
yeah.
you definitely used it for fuel, and it makes sense why you've been so successful in such short time and just going absolutely crazy in this industry, which, I love to see. I absolutely love to see. But I want to start talking about a little bit of the other side of the ego.
Yeah.
So, like you said, when you were, you were building the multiple six figures and you're getting some success in here. Was it ego that made you kind of make that crumble back down where you're like, okay, I got this, and you got a little ahead of yourself? And how do you control that? Because I mean, for one, it's like, there's two sides of it. Like, one, to help people like get over their adversities, but it's also like, one thing that I learned from all the successful people I met through David is it's harder to stay a millionaire than it is to be a millionaire. They say, that's when you really got to work on the ego, because you could wake up every day, and if you're financially set and you're like, I don't have to work today, what's going to make you work? What's going to make you go forward? So it's like, you constantly have to have control of that ego on both sides. And so how did you control it on the side of once you started growing, and once you started expanding, evolving, finally, okay, like I have a hold of this? Like, how did you control the ego at that point?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. So I got in a bad car accident in, it was like 2018,
Yeah.
and I was in ICU, and none of my friends that I thought were like really really good friends were really there for me in that time. And the people that were there for me were like my mentor, people that were really really good people, genuine people, like really comforted me.
Hmm.
The rest of the people, and eventually left when things got tough, were going to different companies. People are saying the grass is greener over here and there, and I take full responsibility because I wasn't that great of a leader. So, and absolutely, the ego always comes before the fall. And when you think, you're above other people, which is a lot of what we see in today's day and age, unfortunately, it's very sad. But when you have that type of mentality, eventually you will fall. And at that point, I thought I was too big to do the small things, and I became too small to have the big things, and I stopped doing the things that got me there. Like David was just saying, that makes complete sense. And people left. I also started to genuinely value great people. And I built a company based on values, doing things the right way with integrity, and leading from the front. And that's how we rebuilt from like really a really low place where I was not getting bonuses, a lot of things that I don't even really want to go into. I lost hundreds of thousands of dollars,
Wow.
to being in debt again, to completely regrowing and slowly with amazing people, amazing leaders, and just surrounding myself with great people, making it about them, working on leadership, working on myself, listening to my mentor more, being more humble, and going out and being more just like relentless in the field and selling and doing the things I needed to be doing. So that's where 2019 was the rebuild, to 2020 was the breakthrough year where it blasted us off, and we did way more. I mean, like I thought I was doing well then. I like three times the amount of money that I was making on the best year
Wow.
previous. So yeah, it doesn't matter how far gone you think you are. Like that's when you need to look in the mirror and just like make the decision that you can't do it alone. You do need other people. You're not better than other people. And you wouldn't be where you're at today without mentors in your corner. So don't ever forget that. Don't forget where you came from. And it can all be taken away tomorrow. And if you love the hype and you love like all the things that, come with success, which, are all ego driven. Well, at the end of the day, when that's all said and gone, who's actually in your corner? Who actually loves you for you? Who is going to be there on your deathbed, and who's not just taking advantage of you because of the money or the status? So I fell in love with those type of people that were genuine, that were great people. And I decided to build a company on people like that. And that was the foundation for something special. And those are the people I love and focus on. And those are the people that eventually always win.
Beautiful. Well, beautifully put, for sure. And I want to touch on something too. I mean, I love that you said the values, right? That you started building those values and the core values and principles of your company and who you wanted around you. Because one thing I also touch on a lot is the stigmas of social media, of movies, of like what success is. And for me, before I met David, I didn't really know what success was. I always thought, okay, they're just rich, they have financial success, right? But now it's like, once I met David, I was like, this guy has success in every area of his life. Like, he is the happiest fucking person I've ever met. Like, he's up there. So, you know, one, what kind of got you to, was it your faith that made you touch on your values? And two is like, how can you explain that to someone who hasn't really, um, I guess, really taken inventory of their values? That's something that David taught me to do, is actually take that inventory and understand what I want and why I want it. Like I don't wake up and, the money side of financial freedom and doing really cool stuff and having, I don't wake up and get motivated by, oh, I want a Lamborghini,
Yeah.
but I do say, hey, I want that to be an option one day.
Yeah.
But it doesn't move me. It's my values. It's my why. It's the road to 100 million. It's everything that I want to do for people that pushes me to get up and be better every day. So how did you, I guess, really get those values? Was it from your faith? And how do you teach other people to really understand their values?
I like that's a great question, man. Yes, it was my faith, and surrounding myself with someone like David Meltzer. For me, it was I didn't have a David Meltzer. I had a Dustin Camp who was like lived that life. Who I saw exactly what you just said. He had wealth, which was winning in all areas, and beautiful wife, kids, happy. He had significance. He had he was successful, and he basically just like felt really, really good all the time, right? And that was the person I wanted to model myself after because he had what I wanted.
Mhm.
So for me, it was a no-brainer. All I had to do was do what he was doing, say what he says, and eventually I would have what he has. And then the second is, like you said, my faith. Like diving in for me, it's the word of God. Whatever you believe in, like get into your faith. Like really, that aspect of it is where I found how to treat people, the morals, the values, the like really like understanding them is when I kind of dove into that even more. And having a great mentor in your corner, bro, is like if you don't have a mentor, guys, go find one on YouTube. Go listen to David Meltzer stuff. Go find someone that has, like you said, happiness. And you can tell, like, you just feel so uplifted and so good around that person.
Yep.
That's the person you need to be listening to every single day and model yourself after them. I think those two things were really kind of how I found that foundation that I needed to kind of, get to the next level.
Absolutely. And, I love that. And, it just shows that you were so open and willing to learn. And for me, it was the same thing. Like when I went into Dave, I was just so inspired. Like I worked for him. Like it wasn't for me when I got in there, it wasn't a job. It was a mentorship. I was like, this is entrepreneurship 101. Like I could learn everything from this guy. I'm hanging around him. I'm doing all the camera stuff, all his branding, right? And social media content. I'm like, I treated it like a mentorship. So I started implementing every single thing that he taught me. And it was just like that inspiration and showed, you saw that with Dustin. If you saw, that's he sits in a space I want to be in.
Yeah.
That's something that, I really try to push down on people is like find that person who actually sits in a space you want to be in, not just has the
Yeah.
flashy stuff or whatever it is, or the girls or the party, right? Actually
A lot of
sits in a
them don't even have that.
yeah.
Like I like that stuff because we're young. Like so we and David asked the same question. He's like, okay, like what if this and that? Like I don't love that stuff. I like it and
Yeah.
I use that, as like, hey, you can be a great person, have these things. You don't need to act like you're better than people. But the really, really successful people don't wear that. Like my mentor doesn't have a Lamborghini, none of that, has a normal house worth 8 figures and lives a beautiful life. Eventually, we're going to grow out of those things. We're young.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with them because I definitely
Yeah.
want, one of those things later on.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I just wanted to add to that. Like,
Yeah. No, 100%. Because David is the most like humbling guy. I mean, he drives, I remember he used to pull up to work every day and he drove a Chevy Volt, right? This guy can definitely afford way more. And he used to drive
oh
a
yeah,
Chevy Volt because it
that's
was just
awesome.
that's how humble he was about that. You
Love it.
know, he spends his money. He has a really beautiful home down in Irvine and, has, his wife has really nice cars and everything else. And he uses it for them, but he's so humbled by himself. But also it's like, it's not bad to want those things either. It's not some kind of bad or like, oh, you have to be an asshole in order to be able to
Yeah,
achieve those levels. Like Ed Milet now, I mean,
yeah,
he has multiple like $20 million properties that, he uses, but he has two cars, like an old vet and an old,
yeah,
like, I think Impala or something. It's just things he likes. And
yeah,
so I think that's awesome. And, I love that you added that on because it's not bad either. It's
yeah,
what we like, but it's not what wakes us up in the morning.
yeah.
Right.
It's your intentions behind it. Why are you getting the items? Am I getting the items for me, for pride, for to impress this girl or to impress this person?
Mhm.
Or is it because you really, really just want those things? Or maybe like you get it and maybe you get the influence. And then what are you doing with influence? Is it just strictly for you to say how great you are? Or is it, hey, like, let me use this to show that, this is what you can accomplish. And also I can build a better message because now that I have this, more people are going to listen. So for me, I'm like, okay, great. Like one of my dream cars is a Rolls Royce.
Mhm.
I want it because I personally want it. It's something that I've always dreamed about and something that I've always envisioned. And it's been a dream of mine for so long. And maybe when I get it, I don't even want it anymore. But that's something that pushes and drives me. Number one. Number two, I know once I have it too, the influence is going to be there, and I can use that influence to inspire more people, help more people. And what I love, bro, is because when I get it, it's not going to mean anything to me, and I can share that message. I can get on here and say, you can have all the money, I want to get all the money in the world. So I can say, hey, this is not what makes me happy. This is being a good person makes me happy, change people's lives. Like being a light, like I feel like more people need, the world needs more people like you, Andrew, and David,
Thank you.
myself, because we got to be the light and tell people like, dude, it's not about these things or like acting like you're better than other people. It's about being a positive influence and working on yourself. And through that journey, you don't need to compare yourself to these people or that person. Like true happiness is in the serving and it's in the becoming. And like we need to share that more. So just wanted to hit on that.
I love that. I love that. And that's just, I tell my team the exact same thing. I always tell them, like, I'm never above you. I'm never below you. I'm always beside you. Right.
Oh,
The only competition you have is yourself. You have to be better today than you were yesterday. Right. And so you're your only competition. So I love that. But as we finish it up on the last two questions here, I do want to take a turn and go. You mentioned the beginning to the sales aspects of things,
yeah.
right? Not knowing sales, not like, getting into it. That was something when I jumped. I went from media to like this industry, and now it's like sales, and it's like,
Yeah.
I didn't know. And the only experience I had in sales was like I probably went through 12 jobs prior to even getting picked up by Dave, right? So I have my own like little journey too, but um I had touched sales and I had been in sales before, but as far as car sales or anything else that I was in sales, it never like sat right with me. I was super honest all the time. And I was just like, I didn't want to be taken advantage. So I want you to touch on like, what is that like high integrity sales? Cause I know, Dave does this, like to be able to sell, some people think, oh, if I sell, like, oh, I'm just trying to pressure people and do things. But
Yeah.
really selling, there's an art to selling, right? There's an art to selling and selling correctly, being able to articulate your value correctly. And, that's something that really taught me that in Dave. But now it's kind of like I'm going through the experience of actually doing it to now. So kind of, I guess, more a question for
Yeah.
me. How did you pick up the sales experience better and, staying really ethical and value-based selling? That's what I want to touch on.
I love that. And you're absolutely right. And some people think it's to like persuade. I mean, it is. It's a transfer of emotion, a transfer of feelings, a transfer of confidence from you to the person sitting next to you. So you're always selling. You're selling right now. I'm selling right now. We're always selling ourselves. When you date, you're selling your girlfriend.
Yep.
You're selling your wife. You're selling your friends. You know what I mean? Like we're always
Yeah.
selling because we're just transferring emotion of what we believe in. So when you understand that's all that sales is, now what am I representing? So once you represent something that you can believe in, that you can back, that you know that it's going to help someone else, now you take the evil out of it, and now you're actually helping someone because you know that their life is better because of this product. Now, when you get in that state, then it's just working on the craft of it, preparation, staying up late. What are you doing outside of the field or outside of that sale to prepare to get that sale done? So the winners, the best salespeople in the world, they work on it. They're constantly role playing. They're constantly getting advice. They're constantly listening to audios, podcasts like this, and refining their skills so that when they have an opportunity, they can get on there and deliver the best presentation they can. And then also you can't be afraid. You got dude, it's all about getting out of your comfort zone in sales,
Oh
man.
yeah.
It's like all the things you need to do and the things you don't want to do, you just need to do it because there's no other way around it. And I'm the same way. Like I have all my stuff ready. And I'm like, I found myself like, I'm like, all right, well, let me use the restroom. Let me check this. I'm like, no, what the
Yep.
hell? Throw it aside and just dive in and do it. And, and it's funny because I'm actually pretty good at it and I still get nervous before, but once you get into it, it gets easier and easier and easier. It's all about turning your brain off just for like go 3, 2, 1 and shut it off and then make your first call and you learn from it every single like call, even if you mess up, or even if you mess up on the presentation, just reflect on it, get some coaching, and don't take it as personally. Like those, I think people take things too personally in sales. You need to just count it as a rep and reflect and learn from it so you can improve to get better on the next one. And that's all that's all it is. As long as your intentions are great and you have a great product, you believe in it, you're doing a great thing for people and they need the service of the product that you're offering.
Wow. I definitely am going to go back, listen to that, note a bunch of stuff, and everyone listening better do the same. If you're in sales, listen to that. Oh my God, just a transfer of belief of what you believe in and the emotion and everything. That's absolutely amazing. And, I mean, I just appreciate you coming on today. And to end off right now, for me, this jump was a lot bigger than even just getting into the industry, getting into everything else. For me, I saw it as a platform to be able to mentor and help people achieve their dreams. And that's where, the road to 100 million was built. And even, road to 100 million also is I want to give away over $100 million,
Wow.
and over, right. And that's just the beginning. I want to scale my agency to over 100 million a year, right. Those are all in this road to 100 million for me. And for me, it's like planting my flag for the next 15, 20 years. It's not, if I'm going to make it, it's when, and so that's the same kind of, confidence I see in you. And so that's really reaffirming to me and like, okay, that we're on the right path. And, after everything you've
Same
gone
mindset.
through,
Same
yeah,
mindset, bro. Yeah, keep it
exactly.
going.
And
You're gonna
after
crush.
everything you've gone through, it just shows, I'm just barely getting started. Like I still have some blows I feel like I should be taking more blows now after hearing your story, man. But,
Yeah,
I want to end off here and, touch on, what is your legacy? What is the impact you wish to have on this world?
I love it, man. Thank you. I would say like for myself, like my goal again is to be a billion-dollar agency. I want to be a life coach eventually. Like I want to write books. I want to do the same thing. Like I want to impact a billion lives before I leave this earth and just be a light. So that's my legacy. All the other stuff's gonna follow. Like my goals when I write them out every single day. A lot of them are not having to do with me. It's like retire my mom, help 50 people make six figures this year. Like the team goal because of what that's gonna do, how many families we're gonna impact and protect. Those are the things, like you said previously, those are the things that are really gonna get you emotionally involved. And then the materialistic things, those never really bring anything. Those are a byproduct of growing. And lastly, I think the legacy is just being a normal kid. I'm 26 years old. Really took my life seriously, maybe starting at 22 and coming from nothing and just showing people that if you just work on yourself, surround yourself with good people, do things the right way, and keep that ego down, you can transform your life. And I just want to inspire and help people believe the same thing because it's true. Like there's no fluff. If you really want it bad enough, you're willing to do whatever it takes. And you're a student, you seek the information, and you just get uncomfortable every single day. You're gonna have the life you want eventually, no matter what.
Absolutely amazing. And, once again, just thank you for coming on because, you're exactly what this podcast represents of leaders just trying to, help improve other people's lives just because we're so grateful of, the transitions we've been able to go through. And so, I absolutely love that. And, for all the audience and everyone, how can they find you? What is your Instagram? What is, where can you send people?
Yeah. So I mostly just have Instagram right now. Eventually I'm gonna have a website. You can find me on Facebook, David Carpenter, look me up. And Instagram is where you can actually like message me, I'll interact. I'll get back to you. Sometimes it takes me a little bit, so give me some time. But it's David E. Carpenter _. And that's my username. And add me and let's chat. Let's get better.
Absolutely awesome. I'll put everything in the show notes for everyone listening to so they can just click and find you. And, I just thank you so much for coming on. And, I thank everyone for listening to this episode of Road to 100 Million. David Carpenter, make sure you go find him. If you are looking to find someone who sits in a space that you want to be in, David Carpenter is definitely a person to look at. So with that said, I will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.